Hello everyone and welcome back for another episode of Minecraft Bedrock Survival. I'm Dr. Ravenholm, and in today's episode we're going to be having a look at some tips and tricks for item elevators. But before we get started, don't forget to rate, comment, favourite and subscribe, and to ring the bell to get notifications on the videos that you want. And don't forget as well to check out my Discord channel, the links are in the description below. Let's head on over to the Redstone testing warehouse. It's raining outside on our world again today, but luckily we're inside of the Redstone testing warehouse here. So here we're going to have a look at a few different methods of item elevators, and the ones that I think are the best, being this design here. So let's have a look here. What we have here is an array of observers which are ran from an observer clock, which sends a signal that can pulse all the way up to the top. Let's get some cobble out. And what we'll do is we'll show you a quick item elevator, and it's just going to chuck the items out once it gets to the top there. So let's pop that in there. And you see there, the items are taken up, and in this scenario they're just thrown out onto the floor. Okay, I'll quickly show you a little bit more of how this one works. So of course you have your input here, so this is where the items will get transported in from wherever it is that you're moving them from. Once they're in there, the comparator reads that they're in there. Then that sends a signal into this repeater, and here we have just a very basic pulse extender, just to extend the signal for the length of time that this sticky piston pushes these two observers together, making an observer clock. Now, depending on the height that you're going to, if you're going like really high, just simply extend out this pulse extender. So we'll go and grab a couple more repeaters from in here. Sorry, comparators even. And just making sure that these form a loop. So you see there, the signal goes into here, and then it will come back out here. So this pulse will actually last longer, so you'll hear the ticking for a bit longer there. You can of course check out my episode on pulse extenders, where I went into quite a lot of detail of all the different variations and the pros and cons of multiple different pulse extenders. But that's how you would extend that one there. I'm going to quickly show you around a few of these other little designs, and then we're going to build this one, and I'll show you actually some item elevators that are in use across our various farms. Because as you all know, in this world, everything is connected. So we have these waste disposal chutes. You can put items in here. They're across the entire storage system. There is boxes where you can put items, and everything all gets fed into one central chamber, and from there they are transported along and up into the storage system to be sorted. Let's have a little rummage around some of these other designs here. Now, this was designed. This doesn't work in Bedrock, and I'm not confident, to be honest, if it works still in Java. I've never used this method because I don't trust it. But the basics of this method is people would shoot the items up through glass, and they would end up at the top, or rather through solid blocks at the top. Now, this doesn't work in Bedrock Edition here. I'm not confident if it works in Java Edition anymore. I think that might be something that might have been patched out, but don't quote me on that one there. Either way, I would not recommend using this method, because for me it's too high risk that an item might get stuck and despawn, and you would lose that item. You can see here as well, I've used one of the variants of the hopper observer clock for the droppers that we were discussing in the previous episode, where we had a few different variants, and I showed you the best method for firing items out of dispensers and droppers. And here we have the classic water elevator method. Same again, we're using the same method for firing the items out of the dispenser. So let's just hop around here, and we will put a few items in there. And you can see here, using the water elevator method, we have a soul sand block, and these are solid blocks, source blocks of water going up. So they're into there, they get forced up, and then of course we have the water there to transport them on to wherever it is that they want to go. Same again, I am not personally a fan of this method, because we did some experiments with this on this world from the old iron farm, back when iron farms used to be this sort of design. And oh, there's 9 golem escaped there. And we did some experiments with the water transportation. Normally we'd have, of course, ice going across there. It's one of the reasons that I'm quite short of around this base is ice. So I didn't actually have enough any ice to make any sort of demonstrations with today. But we tried that with that to transport it back to central storage, and unfortunately we lost about half of the stock of iron that we had. So I don't personally recommend this method. It can be nice and quick and easy. It's probably less server intensive, I suppose, depending on how many items that you're transporting, but I'm not particularly a fan of this method. And I say this method here, I'm not confident that it works. So let's have a look at the actual the method that I do use for transporting items up. So as you can see here, once that clock there is created, it will pulse this little bit of redstone dust here, which this observer can see, and that will pulse in turn as well. And you see here we have another series of observers that are facing down, or rather it's got its face facing down, and same again, that will observe the change in that redstone dot every time that this pulses, and then that will send a redstone signal out from this end, and so on and so forth. That can collect. This observer here will see that change, and it will send a signal into the droppers to fire. All these are facing up over, so the little faces for firing out are all pointing up in this scenario, and then we simply repeat that pattern going as high as you want. Now I have 2 slight variants on this. This one here is using a the pulse extender, it just goes in there. If you are wanting to slow the items down, which I highly recommend if you're putting them into an auto sorter so that the system doesn't get overwhelmed, we have a regulator valve here, and basically all this is 2 hoppers facing into each other, and there is 1 item bouncing between them. And just for compactness sake, I have made this like super close together. But if I put a couple of items in here, just recollecting those, you see there that is unpowered and allowing those items there to get shot up and out. We use this sort of regulator in our bulk storage system, which I'll go over and show you in a moment when I show you some of the item elevators that we have in there. But as you can see there, what you would do is for this in your world though is you would actually have another pulse extender which would extend the time that this is given to work. But just for the nature of our small experiment here, I just compacted it down there. So let's get our rockets out, and we're going to fly back to base, and I'm going to show you some of the item elevators that we have in place in our base. Let's fly through the rain here. We will enter the chute here. You see here that we have loads of storage. We have massive bulk storage areas here, but we want to be down the bottom here. Oh, does this mean we've got a wandering idiot somewhere around here? They keep spawning down here quite often, actually. So you can see here, I have still yet to organise all of these items into the bulk storage system on all the levels above us there. It is on my to-do list. I will maybe do that. Maybe we'll do it in a live stream, perhaps. That might be fun. But anyway, this section down here, this is actually the overspill, or anything that doesn't get sorted. We actually have a beacon here which we pass into our storage system. Just to test that it's not, it hasn't broken down anywhere. But here is one of our item elevators, and you can see here this goes all the way to the top, because basically every item that comes into our storage system, well, apart from one channel, will find its all the way down here. And from here, this is where all of the collection boxes, so on every floor of our storage system, on both sides of the main opening, there's shulker boxes where I can put anything. In fact, let's just stick a block of stack of cobble in there, and you'll see this in action. So slowly making their way across. There we go. And you see, this one is quite a long pulse extender that we have to get these items up, but it's still the exact same back and forth pattern going all the way up, and that will fire all of the items up. So let's quickly shoot up here, and I'll show you that pulse extender. I'll show you that regulator valve. So here up here, I know this looks a little bit of a a tight mess, but having very, very limited space to work in up here. But you see the items, every item that comes into our storage has to pass through this little area here into this final mini item elevator. And what we have here, see here, there again, we have that item being passed back and forth between those two there, just to create a pulse at a much slower rate, which also allows our storage system to be able to cope with the absolute mountain of items. Because you can see here, everything's all coming up, it all comes up here and everything gets forced into that barrel there. There are some chains that come from other farms as well, but everything all gets fed down into this bit here, and we have this regulator valve. Now, one of the bonuses that we have here in Bedrock is we can move hoppers with sticky pistons. Now, what you would do is that if you're doing this in Java, is you would simply swap this out with a redstone torch. Or you could even have, where these repeaters are, you could simply have the repeaters go directly into that, just to lock it up so it can't send any more signals. But that creates a nice slow pulse to be able to slowly get the items up, so it doesn't clog your storage system. But we'll move on from that, because that's not really the purpose of this sort of tips and tricks episode. You see here as well, here we have a little pulse extender. We actually have a couple of pulse extenders because of the elaborate mechanism that we have in here, but that just keeps it going so the item elevators can work for a bit longer. And if we hop down here into our kelp farm, we have an absolutely massive item elevator this transports 73 or 78,000 kelp that we have stored in here. The same again, the same crisscross pattern to take everything up. And this is what feeds our smelters. Now at the minute they're probably in use because I am actually smelting some more smooth stone, unless it's all actually finished by now. You can see here the item elevator, of course, ends up here and then goes into there. I know this sort of looks like a crazy mess, but it is really, really simple to build. And what we're going to do is now we're going to head over back to the redstone testing warehouse, and we will let's see if we just drop down here. We're going to actually build one of these so you can actually see how easy it is to build one of these. So let's hop back up here, and we should be back in the super smelter. Yeah, the super smelter's still on the go. Did a couple of episodes of that. You can see here we have various controls for the super smelter as well, so we can flush the items, because occasionally they do get jammed in the system, and we can also lock them so that it allows us to take XP out if we wish. And here as well we have controls for the kelp farm as well. There's controls for the kelp farms dotted all over the place because of the how integrated our kelp farm is. Because you can see here the kelp storage room for the fuel is actually full at the moment, so we're not actually using up any fuel. But okay, let's head on up to the redstone testing warehouse now. Oh, we didn't make it that time. Yeah, when there's a lot of stuff going on the hoppers there, it does tend to lag out flying a little bit. But okay, here we are. Let's put this cobble away for now. And we'll pop these tools back in here. So one thing I love about being back here with the redstone testing warehouse, because virtually all of my redstone is done here in this warehouse in survival, apart from like the massive builds like the automatic player minecart selector. That was way too big to fit in here, and just as well with the rain as well that we're doing this indoors. It does have quite a nice effect though, doesn't having the rain outside we're in our little shed here. So for the little build that we're going to build today, just to give you a demo, here are the components that we have. Actually, I will need those. So we're going to just use just a quick one with 5 droppers, which will require 7 observers for that, and we have the stuff to make the clock as well. So let's get all that into our bar on the bottom, and we have some food in case we need it. In fact, we better just have some of that there. Okay. So we need to decide where we're going to build it, and I think we'll just do it over here. You can of course see in the redstone testing warehouse all the floor is all marked up, so you can see all the dimensions of these easily if you wish to pause for a moment if you see something that you want to take a closer look at. But we're going to build up this little tower here, but we'll do it just over here. Now I just have to make sure I don't hit the beams on the top of the warehouse here. So I tell you what, we'll build up the tower just here because we're not going to be in the way of the beams. So first of all, we're going to get our droppers. So these have got to be droppers as well, I will add. And And what we'll do is we need to run a observer into that. So with observers, I'll come out here. The little dot where the output comes faces you when you place it down. So let's just come in here, pop that in there, and you see there, oops, wrong item selected, ignore that. There we go, observer in there, and we'll put the redstone dot in there, and you also heard a little click there as it changed state. So what we need to do now is we get our next observer, and this one needs to be facing down. So I find that if you look at the redstone dot and jump and use the redstone dot's hitbox to place the next one, and then we're going to place a redstone dab on top of that, and you'll see why that's important in a second. We're going to get our next observer, and you can just make out the hitbox on the side there. So what I'm going to do is click on there, and then we use the next dropper to bring us up a couple of levels. And then we repeat the process. Jump, redstone dab, and then we'll get an observer, we'll come into that hitbox. I'm just looking up to make sure we're not going to go through the windows of the warehouse here. Then we're going to come up, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to try and drop off and drop this. Now of course you would build this as high as you want to go. You can build it all the way up to build limit if that's what you're needing for your build. But as I said, we're just building this nice little short one as a demo, so that it spits all the items out when we do this. I'm going to just drop back and place that on there just as we fall down there. So okay, now we need to build up the system here to be able to like extend the pulse so that the items have time to get to the very top. Now, as I said before, as you saw as well in some of those other ones there, the higher you need the item to go, just the longer you need to build this out. The ones I built over there are like over the top. Those pulses go on for way longer than is absolutely necessary. So don't worry about making those like massive comparators. All you need to do really is once you've got it like built this section here, just put one item in. Does it make it to the top? If it doesn't, put another two on. Put another item in. Does that make it to the top? If it does, brilliant, you're sorted. If it doesn't, then add another one. Repeat until you've reached the limit that you require there. Oh, and look at that, the sun's just starting to come up there outside. Yep, and the rain stopped, at least for now. I'll suggest as well maybe checking out my apiary video as well, that you can just see there, that produces absolutely tons of honey bottles. But alright, let's get the next bit in. So we need to be able to send a signal into that. So I'm going to pop that there. I'm going to come just one away, pop that there, turn around, this is with our sticky piston, and drop that in there. Then I'm going to get my comparator, just pop that there so it's from the dropper into the comparator. Then we're going to have that there just to amplify the signal, because you only get, depending on how much volume I suppose that's going through. I tell you what as well, we will put an input in there as well, because of course this could come from whatever chain it is that you require it to come from. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put two little redstone dots and then an a repeater coming out there. One thing I will say is when you're using these, always make sure that you immediately take a repeater output, an input and an output onto these systems here. But you can check out my other episode where I went into quite in-depth rambling about all the different sorts of pulse extenders and showed off my variable pulse extender design. So we've got this bit here, and now we have two more comparators left. So your signal is coming this way. So in order to get the maximum signal, you want this immediately here facing that way. You don't want it facing that way because that is just a slight signal strength change as it goes to there. And because this is moving in a loop, so you would come out here, turning here with the electrical signal, think of it this way, and then we're out here. And that's it done. So right, we'll take some steak, put those in there, and it's raining steak. There we go, let's grab those in. And then you see that I had plenty of time just for that short little trip there to extend the pulse on that one there. And that is it. That is really simple to build. It's really effective just for getting items up. As I said, there is methods like the water elevators where you can shoot them into water with a soul sand. That'll push it up, and then you have other water flows that push the items along. In Java, you can shoot items through solid blocks, but I'm not 100% confident in it, so don't quote me on that, and I just wouldn't recommend it at all. For me, it's too high risk that you would lose the items from your farm. It may be resource intensive to build these massively, but at least you're going to have the reliability from this setup. And of course, if it's going into an automated storage system, I would highly recommend that you combine it with two hoppers facing each other to make this little regulator valve. It just makes things so much easier, and stops your storage system from breaking, which is it can occur in between like chunks loading and such, but this just helps it to reduce it when you have a little regulator valve such as that. Okay, so we've had a little look around that. What I'll do is I'll do a slow little pan around here so you can have a look, pause it if you need to. Just remember as well that you need the redstone dab on each of these going up, so that you can just make out those few red pixels as I jump up and down. In fact, how tall is the scaffolding here? There you go. You can see where I've got the little redstone dabs there. In fact, you know what we'll do? We will put that stack in there. I'll go up there. And there you go, you can see it actually flashing from this side, so that better illustrates how this signal gets sent up. And you don't have to power every single one of the droppers because they will get powered by their neighbour within close range anyway. Right, just a couple more stakes to land. So that is it for the item elevators there. Let's just grab that last remaining stake, and now I have a bonus tip for you for if you are if you are wanting to transport mobs along. So this is a bonus tip for the day. If you've got now, normally of course you would have ice underneath here, but as I said before, we don't really have any ice much around here. If you are transporting mobs over large distances, this here is an easy method that you can use to get to continue them along a long journey. I mean, I've just set up like a little tiny one here, and I'm going to use myself as the mob to demonstrate this. So here we have a water flow, and you can see here where we've got these two signs. One sign stops it from flowing that way, and this sign has a source block up here to suspend it. And you see there, as we go there, our feet are getting pushed by the water in the lower section. And then as we get pushed out of the water there, our chest gets then pushed with the water, or the mob in this question. Let's say if you've got a villager or a zombie or something, and that would allow you to move them because they'll get pushed like by their chest or by their head further along, and then the water then will continue to flow as normal. And you can repeat this every single time that the water runs out. So let's just go through here again. So imagine that you've got a villager and you want to move them a few blocks over, or a zombie from one of your farms. And of course, as this would be much faster if we had ice, but it's one resource that we don't actually really have much of on this world is ice. At least not at the base anyway. There are some icebergs just to the south there. But yeah, this is just a nice little bonus fact here, because it goes along with the item elevators and like water elevators if you're using those. You can of course, same again, you would just, if you're having the items, you would just have a single track. You wouldn't need to have that extended upper area. And you could just either have a pressure plate or a sign, and if you've got the ice, the items of course will shoot across, but that's if you're sending items along horizontally. Today's theme was vertical transport, but that's a nice little bonus fact for you there, or bonus tip. So I hope you enjoyed that there. Don't forget to rate, comment, favourite and subscribe, and don't forget as well to check out my Discord community. We don't just talk about Minecraft, there's space for books and movies, from everything to tabletop games. So I look forward to speaking to you there. Thanks for watching and have a lovely day. Thank you for joining me today. If you are enjoying our journey and would like to see more, then please rate, comment, favourite and subscribe in whichever manner your chosen platform allows. If you are joining us on Twitch, Mixer or YouTube, where we have loads more for you to watch, from our live streams to all our episodes across our various series. You can also drop by and say hi over on Discord, where we chat about everything from Minecraft to books and movies to tabletop games. But most importantly, thank you very much for watching and have a lovely day.